What's going on, my great people in the world? It's your guy, Nicholas Wilcox, alongside my guy here. This guy, big guy, going bald, Johnny Man.
You ain't shit, man.
Say what's up to the great people, Johnny.
What's up, man? What's up? Yeah, going bald. Just figured I'd just, go ahead and rock it here. Let it be carefree. We're in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs here, halfway through with a shocker last night. But yeah, man, feeling good here. Before we get started, just, quick shout out to Mrs. Main. Happy birthday, Mrs. Johnny Main, on your amazing birthday here. Thank you for all that you do, and being flexible and helping out so we can do this thing here, man. So, but otherwise than that, right there, man, I'm ready to go, man. Super excited about these, second half of divisional weekend here with these games, man.
Totally. So yeah, I mean, look, like we'll break down. It's not our usual slate, you know what I'm saying? It's not the regular season anymore, but we'll talk about, obviously what happened last night. We'll talk about some plays that we like today. If you're playing DFS, we give you advice based on questions. Then we'll have our props, bets, picks for the 2 game slate today. So we'll go over those in a moment. We will first talk about the lighter side of things, the obvious side of things. The Chiefs moving on to the conference final, beating the Texans. This game was a little bit back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, it was a little bit more than what people thought was going to be the final outcome of the game. I in a previous podcast on Wednesday, TBQ Sports Podcast, I did say that I was taking the Chiefs to -8.5. That barely covered. Barely covered because it technically should have covered by 11. But the Chiefs decided to take a stupid. So and I wouldn't say stupid, but they decided to take a safety, take all the, do a free kick, instead and give the ball back to the Texans. But who knows what could have happened there? That late in the ball game, So, but kudos to the Chiefs going back to the conference final. Mahomes, man. Again, but people, I don't know. I don't want to say that the people are getting tired of them and the so-called referees for giving them calls and stuff like that. But I mean, look, that play Mahomes makes where he's barely about to touch the ground on a sack. That's like signature now for Mahomes. I feel like he's done that several times before, and he's made tremendous plays just by doing that, like alone.
Dude. Like I felt like this one would have been, was going to be a lot closer. Just obviously they just previously played a few weeks ago in Arrowhead as well. And, I think we see it a lot of times too with these teams that have had the week off versus the teams that have already played. The teams that have played seem to be in like a little bit more of a rhythm. And I think like just DeMeco Ryans, like, he's one of those type of guys that you could tell, obviously he could get those guys up for a game like this right here. Again, like it was closer than, I think what a lot of people had thought it was going to be, but it's just something you mentioned, man. It's just something about Patrick Mahomes, man, at this time of the year. And then, obviously you got Travis Kelce, who's been playing possum all year long, man. And then all of a sudden in the playoffs, that's really what it is. He's playing possum out there, man. And like, you knew that like he was going to have a day against these guys because it's obviously, man, hey, it's playoff time. And as far as the refs go, I think, like that, there's definitely an element of it that, is starting to get on the, consumers and fans' nerves, if you will. I think
I like how you said consumerism.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in a mind state. Will Anderson, the play with him right there, man. I think, that was a huge play. That was a huge play early on in that game. And like for me, I just, I think we've lived through the Tom Brady rules, as far as like him being taught, we've lived through that, right? And to see other quarterbacks like get that call occasionally, but Patrick Mahomes seems to get that call with a lot of frequency. I'm not going to jump all over the refs. I've got a lot of respect for what the Kansas City Chiefs have done and are doing right now. But yeah, man, like it was a good game. Seeing Joe Mixon, do his thing yesterday was pretty good. And then you just kind of had a feeling that CJ Stroud, for as rough of a statistical year that he had, you almost kind of had the feeling that he was going to come out and try to level up and play on the same level as Mahomes. And for me, when I knew this game was pretty much over, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but once the Texans missed the PAT, I was like, this ain't it. Today's not the day. Today's not the day for him. But overall, man, like a really good game. I think better than what most of us had thought. I think the Chiefs still have some questions in regards to the run game, because I think that hasn't really showed up for them as of yet. So that's something I think that needs to be talked about a little bit more, because at some point in time they are going to have to be able to run the ball. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it, man.
Yeah, I'm waiting. It's like the game I expected to happen for a game flow perspective. Like it was sort of there.
Yeah.
It's just it felt like the Chiefs running game never got going until like when it matters most.
Yeah.
And it was with Kareem Hunt, not Pacheco.
Right.
So I was just puzzled a little bit when that happened. And DeAndre Hopkins, no catches, blanketed throughout the game. Hollywood Brown, same thing. Like both of these guys are blanketed. So kudos to the Texans defense secondary, because we've been talking about them a lot. For the most part, like usually they allowed more touchdowns and stuff like that. But from a matchup perspective in this one, like they really had a lot going, a lot of things going their way. But again, look, the Texans, a couple of things that was going to be Achilles' heel for them was that offensive line. They let too many sacks go late. Karlaftis had he was crazy. Like I think the last possession they had back-to-back sacks or something for him. Like it was crazy after not having much all game. It was nuts. I think they allowed 8 or 9 sacks in that game. Crazy. I'll also say that CJ Stroud back-to-back games in these playoffs really looked like a QB that looked like more of himself. Versus when he was down the stretch in the regular season, it's not looking like CJ Stroud at all. And obviously it's because, again, we don't have some of your best weapons, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, stuff like that. Not able to have, the weaponry you had once, even when you did have them, it was like, where'd Johnny go? I guess he has to grab his charger real quick. But I'll continue my rant and take. What I'll say is that the overall is that these Chiefs continue to play. I don't want to say down to their competition, but they keep on playing in games that are a little bit more tighter than people, not exactly suspect. But I will say that kudos to the Chiefs, because they got it done once again, and they're going on to the conference final, where we're one game away going back to the Super Bowl and an opportunity to do something that no team's ever done, and that's to go back to back Super Bowl reigning, defending back-to-back defending Super Bowl champs, and an opportunity to have a three-peat, which no team has not done in history. So it's going to be interesting to see whoever the Chiefs face, whether it be the Ravens and the Bills. It'll be at Kansas City. So whoever wins the game is exactly going to have a great stretch of game. They're not going to have much to celebrate too much about, because they're going to have to play the reigning, defending back-to-back Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs.
You missed it. You missed your opportunity. The reigning, defending.
Oh, I said it already, but I said it already. But
no, you said it, but you missed that.
I know.
I
know. But
but you were but what you were talking about though, whoever it is that's going there, man, all these teams, man, all these teams owe the Chiefs some get back. Everybody does. The Ravens, the Bills, the Eagles, everybody owes these guys some get back. So I don't think people are looking at it from that standpoint. I think they're looking to get some get back. So
we'll see. And the shocker of the night, Commanders with the upset, the 45-31 victory on the road. Commanders like an 8.5 or 9.5 dog. They win this game by 14. Lions were a 10-point favorite. It's just, I didn't want to believe that the collapse was going to happen in this game. I really thought Detroit was just going to go and they're going to win this game. I thought the Commanders had the opportunity to cover, which I said. That I was taking the points on the Commanders. I didn't expect them to outright win this game just because of, although the Lions were dealing with injuries, the turnovers killed them in this game.
Yeah,
and the way they did those turnovers were drives where they were starting to go down the field on and getting the momentum, and again, just costly turnovers, and that's anything in a ball game, whether it be anything, football, basketball, whatever, turnovers. But it's more about when those turnovers happen and then how the other team capitalizes on those opportunities. Jayden Daniels, man, literally, like, again, we've said this before about Jayden Daniels, not a average rookie. He's doing, clearly, you're seeing that. Clearly not your average rookie QB, and he's doing remarkable historic things. He has done total yardage 300 back-to-back in the playoffs as a rookie. No one's ever done that. And the only rookie QB outside Joe Flacco that's being the number one seed on the road. So, yeah, I mean, look, like Jayden Daniels, this kid's got ice in his veins, like literally, like nothing scares him, nothing phases him. And it's remarkable to kind of see the Commanders going back to the conference final for the first time since 1991. The Cowboys haven't done that in a while.
Oh, man.
Anything to add when it comes to Detroit Lions debacle?
Yeah, well, a couple things. You mentioned one stat about Joe Flacco, but there's another stat as well about Jayden Daniels. His first rookie quarterback to win 14 games and win a playoff game. The only other quarterback to do that was Ben Roethlisberger in the rookie season. So, yeah. But no, like, I think, like, just one of the things that, we have seen with the Lions at points in time this year was turnovers in bunches. And I didn't expect the Commanders to win the game. I thought the Commanders could cover as well. I just thought that this was one of those situations now where, having, mobile quarterbacks in the playoffs.
Montgomery's back. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, really just for me, like, I didn't know how Washington's defense was going to be able to stack up against the Detroit offense. That was the biggest concern for me, was that right there. I thought Washington would be able to move the ball. I thought they would be able to score points, but it was just like the Detroit Lions offense all year long was like, okay, like we talked about it before. How do you want it? Okay, you want us to run the ball on you? Cool, we'll run the ball. All right, hey, man, you want us to throw for 304 touchdowns? All right, cool. Like, we can do that. You want some combination of either or? We can do that as well. And I think just like the Washington defense, obviously just being able to step up and make plays. I think one of the things that all of us didn't take into consideration outside of Commanders fans is just that, like, a lot of veterans on that team, right? They made a lot of moves during the offseason to bring in, some players that had some experience, right? The Bobby Wagners of the world, Austin Eckler, guys like that right there. Again, that Zach Ertz, that, on this roster that have had some form of playoff experience and things like that right there. So I thought that aspect of things was super critical. And I think just having that type of veteran leadership, and then, you put that together with, the talent that you have with JD5 and obviously, man, Terry McLaurin, finally getting over the hump, man, and getting into the playoffs. I thought like that aspect of it definitely was something that wasn't talked about enough or whatnot. But yeah, man, overall, super excited for the Commanders. Be interested to see how things shake today. I think for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is, if they're able to pull things off today, this is the best case scenario. We say that, but the Commanders are playing hot, obviously, and here we are, man. And then, Ben Johnson, like, what does that look like now? Like, does he attempt to come back and run that back again another year with this group? Or, does he,
man.
right. Or does he go to greener pastures, and become an offensive coordinator and has that window now closed? I don't want to say closed, but like, is this potentially the best version of the Detroit Lions that like we're going to see over the next, handful of years? So I think there's just a lot of questions, but the one thing that like really stood out to me for on the Lions side of things is just, man, just seeing how passionate Dan Campbell is, man. Like, it's just, he's there for his guys, man. And I think like that just bled through in the press conference after the game last night. But just schematically, man, like, we're at that point in time of the year where these mobile quarterbacks have done everything they need to do to stay healthy, and now to be able to put defenses in these tough situations. And you've seen Jaden Daniels last night, all night long, putting that Detroit Lion defense, the banged up Detroit Lion defense, in precarious situations all night long.
Yeah, and they just. There was another thing I want to mention. It was just not enough penetration for the Lions, and obviously that's when you have a bunch of your starters out with injuries, stuff like that. Like there was just counter plays. You know what I'm saying? The penetration was just off on the QB keepers like too many times that Daniel was able just to scramble right outside the box with no one within 10 or 15 yards of him almost. Like it was definitely a game where. If you weren't stopping Daniels' legs, you were getting threaded with his arm. And, the big play that made me feel the Commanders had an opportunity to win the game was because that Terry McLaurin 59-yard, literally it's a short area pass. There's two guys there. Make the tackle. Instead, he splits between the two defenders and he keeps on going. And that's where, again, I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely who wants it more, but it's bruh, these are tackles that you have to make, or these are momentum switch flips. You know what I'm saying? Without that, he should go for maybe 10 yards, maybe at best. But instead, he goes for a 59-yard touchdown. So it's the things that, and then the also big play was the pick six.
That would
for real.
Yeah.
It's what? Really? So but yeah, kudos to Commanders, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him because I've been a fan of Jaden Daniels since the start. And it's interesting to see his development, this staff that was put together smartly.
Cliff Kingsbury, baby.
You know what I'm saying? And again, yeah, Cliff Kingsbury gets crapped on all the time because of what happened with the Arizona situation. I just felt that with Cliff Kingsbury, it was just, again, I felt that the Kyler Murray, you look at Kyler Murray now, and it's well, I can kind of see how Cliff Kingsbury is now having success with a quarterback like Jaden Daniels versus Kyler Murray. They're somewhat similar. The problem is Kyler Murray is still not an accurate passer, from the pocket. And that's not, because of his height. I don't want to say that either, because it's more like Doug Flutie back in the day. He was 5'10". He still was good. So I don't want to hear that. It's more about these guys don't become an accurate football passer in football. And again, we saw that with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. It felt like they never got on the same page. And so there's a lot of things there. But again, kudos to the Commanders for pulling off the upset. And it wasn't just by 3 points. They beat them by 14. So it wasn't we beat you in your own house barely. We kicked the door down, took your damn loot, and went back home.
Yeah. Your trap. Take over your trap.
Pretty much. Yeah, it was bad. So I think in terms of the coordinator situation, I do expect both of them to go, both offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, to get their head coaching jobs, because in this cycle of head coaching jobs right now, somewhat teams are kind of pickled into picking a certain group of guys right now. This is the opportunity. If you want a head coaching position, this is the cycle to probably do so, because it feels like the franchises that are getting the opportunity that you're getting, they're only gonna be there. They may be available again in 3 or 4 years, but it's you want to wait that long. I think Ben Johnson, I think he's a lead candidate for the Raiders. That would make some sense. Heard a rumor that they would trade Hayden Hooker to the Raiders if they requested it.
Hayden Hooker, baby, get it right. You team, shout out. Let's go.
That would be interesting. So,
right.
What did I say? So that'd be interesting to see. But I would say Aaron Glenn going to the Jets would be interesting. Going back home, you know what I'm saying, type of thing. Feel good story.
New Orleans.
So New Orleans is possible as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a few candidates. A few coaching positions out there that if you're looking to be a head coach now, you're ready. You should jump on the opportunity to do so. Depending on what situation you want to enter. Because Dallas, I think, also is a very interesting spot as well. It's just there's a ton of baggage that comes with it, obviously. So that's where that goes to. But yeah, that was Saturday. Let's get into today's games. Let's get into the first game. Should be a very interesting one, depending on weather. Of course. The Rams going into Philadelphia. Take on the Eagles. The over-under is 42.5. The game time is 3 p.m. Rams are getting 6.5 as the underdog on the road. Johnny, what are your first thoughts on this game? Your overall take here? What do you like? What you don't like? What do you see happening here?
For me, man, I look at this game and I think actually we got 2 rematches today, regular season games, which are very interesting just at the onset. But I just think like this is one of those situations where the Rams defense is, as my coaches used to say back in high school, a little light in the britches.
There you go.
Just
hope he's watching, by the way.
What do you say?
I hope he's watching, by the way.
Oh man,
all these references you had for him.
Oh man, listen, I had some awesome high school coaches, man, football and basketball. But yeah, I just think it's one of those situations where they are lighting the britches, and I think if you're the Rams, you got to make a decision, and the decision is are you going to stop Saquon Barkley or attempt to stop Saquon Barkley, or are you going to let Jalen Hurts as a passer take his shots? And I think that's what we're going to see. Is I think we're going to see the Rams come in with a game plan today, trying to make the Eagles win this game through the air. I know we got some bad weather coming in as far as snow. I checked it a while ago before we got online, and it literally all of the snow is supposed to be happening during the time of the game. So I think that'll be interesting. And I heard a crazy stat about Stafford the last time he played in a snow game, which I think it's maybe 2012 or something like that right there with Calvin Johnson. And he had 5 fumbles in a snow game outside. So hopefully that does not happen for him today. But even just like historically looking, the Eagles and Rams have played, I think 2 times in 2 of the last 3 meetings. The Eagles have won by 2 scores or more, and obviously Jalen Hurts has been at the helm in those situations. No Saquon Barkley, obviously, but AJ Brown has been a menace to the LA Rams during that window of time. They've won by, like I said, by 2 scores. And then like just kind of flipping things back over, man. Like in this matchup earlier on in the year, Saquon went absolutely nuclear. He went absolutely nuclear. So I think if you're the Rams, that's got to be your plan. As far as the Rams on the offensive side of the ball, Puka Nacua, he was a problem for them last time they played. I think, he went over 100 the last time they played. So I feel like both of these teams now being familiar with each other in terms of like how they played. I think the Eagles obviously have to figure out a way how to minimize Puka Nacua and what it is that he does. So I know there's been a lot of conversation about Cooper Kupp a few weeks ago on this very show. I said it, caught a little heat behind it. That like I think we might be towards I don't want to say the end, but I think us viewing Cooper Kupp the way that we viewed him, I think that time is now officially over. However, he's got a nice prop. Maybe Nick's going to talk about that a little bit later on, maybe. But I just think, like I said, there's just too much going on here for the Philadelphia Eagles overall. Yeah, man, like that's really my take on the game. I think the Eagles win this game. I like the under in this game, just from like a game perspective.
Yeah, with the weather, things come into play, obviously, when it comes to this matchup. The first thing I'm looking at is obviously the obvious matchup of the run game for both teams. So Barkley running against the Rams run defense. According to Next Gen Stats, when Barkley ran for 255 rush yards, 150 of them were rush yards over expected, which was the second most in a game since 2018. Just unbelievable that type of game that he had, because it was a couple of home run calls that he had in that game, and I'm like, boom, like, holy Lord,
see ya.
It was like, wow, it was just a performance, like, obviously we went ham and sick because we had Barkley a good amount of our leagues this year, so after people said that, oh, Barkley's not going to do as much as he did before, okay, whatever. But look, the Rams, they finished the season as the 22nd run defense in the NFL. They are 26 in yards per attempt, giving it 4.6 per attempt. So again, like the matchup there should be there once again for Barkley to take advantage of. So I do like the longest rush over 20 and a half longest rush yards per attempt. So I'll go a little bit safer instead of going for the over the 100 because you just never know. I do think the big play is there for Barkley, obviously, in this matchup. We should see it here. In terms of the other matchups in this thing, Kyron Williams definitely no slouch either when it comes to this thing. Because in terms of, the Eagles, Eagles defense is really good too, but they're missing now.
Kobe Dean.
Thank you. Kobe Dean, who has been their, star Mike linebacker. So now you're probably going to be seeing Zach Braun probably play that position a little bit more with a combination of Trotter out there. So yeah, look, it's a pretty big deal because, I think Kyron is still a guy that McVay is going to look to in terms of moving the football, and again in a weather type of game. No Blake Corum now, so it's like you're really relying on Ronnie Rivers or something like that. Like, come on, like I don't know about that. So that's where that comes into play. And I think another piece of this puzzle is Tyler Higbee, who's going to play in this game after looking like he wasn't going to play this game. Yeah. That chest injury is coming. He went to the hospital for, so but he is going to be playing this game. So again, Higbee's no spry chicken. He's 32 years old. But in terms of the play action plays and stuff like that and things over the middle, like something to keep an eye out for, because if that starts happening for the Rams to have success for it, which they did have in the first game, last week against the Vikings, if they can continue on that success, this could be a long day for the Eagles defense in terms of, their front seven and in terms of their linebacker core, missing Kobe Dean. So there's that. Those are the things I'm really looking at for this game. Obviously, the Eagles corners against the Rams receivers. We all know Cooper Kupp. We all know Puka Nacua. You know what I'm saying? They did their thing last time as well, but it was, again, kind of more like catch up, away from the game they played before. So it'll be interesting to see how Stafford and these guys are able to maneuver in terms of when they saw the first matchup versus now. Look, Cooper DeJean playing against Puka Nacua, potentially the slot, is going to be something interesting to watch. There's no doubt that, again, Puka Nacua is the star of this offense now. According to Next Gen Stats, the first matchup, Nacua was deployed on 78. He gained 78 yards on 117 of those yards in the slot. So it could be a matchup where they do, because of the weather, because of things, you got to throw things a little bit more short and intermediate. Puka could play a lot more slot potentially in this matchup, like he did in the first one when he had success. So instead of more on the outside. So we'll see what happens with that. I do think the Eagles cornerbacks, again, Darius Slay, we're talking about,
Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, yeah.
I was gonna mix another name, so thanks. But those guys as corners have been playing some of their best ball all year. The Eagles have been playing as a top 5 defense all year since they had those rookies in the lineup, and Darius Slay has been healthy. Like, these guys know how to shut it down. So there's that, and then clearly the last thing that I'll talk about is both of these. It always comes down to the trenches, and especially in a game where we're going to be seeing forecast issues. Like, this is going to be about, can Jared Verse, who, by the way, apparently despises the Eagles.
Wrong time, Rook. Wrong time.
Don't know why he said that.
Wrong time, Rook. Wrong time. Some of them things just keep to yourself, brother.
Seriously, just
keep to yourself.
Keep match fuel for your own self.
I guarantee he's gonna get a wham block today.
He's gonna have something for sure. I will say about Jared Verse, he's having a great rookie year. He's probably going to be defensive rookie of the year. He has 76 pressures on the year. That's 4th in the NFL. To give context, Trey Hendrickson led the league with the most pressures, and then we had Danielle Hunter with 90, and then Myles Garrett 84. So Jared Verse having 76 pressures in the year. Really, makes it so Jared Verse is gonna bring some pressure, hopefully. This defense was definitely surprising the week in the matchup against Darnold, and these guys sacking him 9 times last week. In their matchup in that neutral game, by the way, which it should have had a home matchup, but due to the wildfires. But I will say that it's going to come down to that. And then obviously the Eagles offensive line has been a top 5 offensive line for God knows how long. So again, it comes down to that. Obviously, I'm taking the Eagles, taking the points here. I just think the Eagles have too much of the makeup to not let this one get away from them. They play at a pace where, Hurts can dissect. The only way, again, this happens if the Rams are going to have opportunity to win this one, and at least even have a chance at covering, or having the 6.5, is they're going to have to find a way to offensively get their offense in rhythm early. One of the things, obviously, we saw in the first matchup was Barkley. You got to literally shut down Barkley. I think you got to put all your resources on that and allow Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts is going to beat you one-on-one, and let him use his arm downfield, obviously contain him so he doesn't run outside the pocket either. It's a lot to ask for a Rams defense that, again, they weren't one of the better units coming into the playoffs, but I will say that they do show some heart. This front seven is no joke. As long as this Eagles offensive line goes, they've been looking stellar all year. So again, I think it comes down to, I think the Eagles have too many better matchups on paper to take advantage of the Rams in this matchup. Again, the turnover or 2 is going to happen for the Rams. A special teams play is going to happen for the Rams in order to win this one. The under, I feel like I do like, but I guess if I'm going to take a play, no, I'm going to take the over, because I think both of these offenses are going to have opportunities to look to score, and it's just going to be all about who's going to be able to do that a little bit more better today. I think defense is going to come to play, but I think ultimately, if the Eagles are going to have their way with time possession, if anything, look like how they looked like last week against the Packers, where, again, the Packers had some opportunities in that game, but again, the Eagles' pressure was there too much, and Jordan Love didn't look healthy, stuff like that. I think the Rams, although this Eagles team in general on defense doesn't blitz, they're like one of the lowest teams to blitz rate, which is opposite from what the Vikings were. And Stafford was able to pick them apart on blitzes because he's just that good against the blitz this year. It's the opposite. So it will remain to be seen if the Eagles pass rush as well plays a factor in this, because they don't blitz as much. So that Eagles defensive line is going to have to get home. So remains to be seen if Stafford's going to have more time under pressure, stuff like that. So we'll have to see, but I think the Eagles are going to take this one. They're going to cover the points here too at home. Win, and they're hosting the NFC Championship game against the Commanders. Crazy. It'd be crazy. And here's the kicker, though. If the Rams end up winning this game, they host the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. Just like we drew it up in August, man.
Just like we drew it up in August.
Just like we drew it up.
Oh, man. Nuts. Props for this game. I do think, based on the props I have, should be more game flow dependent. I'm going back to the well, and call me crazy, but Cooper Kupp over 3.5 catches. Like, they're going to need Cooper Kupp in this game. They didn't need him last game. 1 catch, 29 yards. They didn't need him. Last game against the Vikings, it was a pure shutdown of Sam Darnold and the Vikings, like literally. So I think Cooper Kupp finds himself in a situation where, and I talked about that earlier, the Eagles linebackers are going to potentially have a tough time, with Kyron Williams getting, fed the football, with Tyler Higbee potentially taking away some linebackers over the middle if they get a catch or 2 early on, just like they did against the Vikings. If they find a way to get them the ball early, that may change some game flow plays happening to where Cooper Kupp can find himself in situations where he gets the ball. I think 3.5 is too low for Cooper Kupp. I know he's been struggling. I know he doesn't look like his usual self, but 3.5 catches for Cooper Kupp in a playoff game with a 6.5 point underdog, I do think that Cooper Kupp can definitely get there. Kyron Williams over 91.5 rushing receiving. The last couple of games, Kyron's been better at catching the football. They've been checking down the ball to him a little bit more often. So the line feels right in terms of that. But if you're a little scared about just the receiving portion, the 74 or 75 and a half I saw for rushing yards seems nice as well. But again, the Eagles are still a decent run defense as well. So, but I think this play is definitely in play because of the Rams being behind. They really don't have no one else really to sub out Kyron like that. So he should be playing all 3 downs. So Kyron should just get there based on volume alone. Jake Elliott, a rare kicker prop. Elliott over 7.5 kicker points. So kicker points, how they work is extra points is 1 for the books, and then every field goal made is 3. So in reality, if Elliott scores 2 field goals, 2 extra points, meaning that if the Eagles, let's just say the Eagles score 20 points, they get 2 field goals off of that, and then 2 extra points, you have the prop. Just an example of how it works. But Jake Elliott over 7.5 kicker points. He's done this in I think the last 5 to last 6 home matchups that Jake Elliott has done this in. So in a game where the weather is going to be affecting things, like this could be a spot where if they get a little bit more closer than we want to, the Eagles may just take the points and settle. So this is possible. But those are all the plays I have for the 3:00 game for the Rams Eagles. Johnny, you in agreement with the Eagles or you like the Rams? Which one?
No, like I said, man, I think like this is definitely an Eagles game for sure. Rams play a lot of zone D. So again, there's just not a lot of ways that I can see that the Rams can get there. I think the Rams defense has been built to get after the passer. And so because the defense is built like that, you're going against a team, again, as I said, that can, they can play in a variety of ways for sure. So because they can play in a variety of ways, I think, again, I like Saquon today. The Cooper Kupp prop that you talked about, I'm actually okay with that. I think his prop on DraftKings was like 36 or 38.5 receiving yards. The last time that they played,
37.5.
Yeah, the last time that they played earlier on this year, he actually had 71 receiving yards. So I think obviously he can get there either way. It's obviously a pretty low number, and it's either got to be him or Tyler Higbee, because the Eagles, they're not going to, you kind of mentioned it, they're not going to let Puka Nacua just go crazy. The Kyron prop, I'm okay with that. I think what happens with a lot of running backs that end up playing against the Eagles is they turned into, mids, jags. So I think, maybe that 91, maybe he can get there, right? So maybe the 70, maybe 60, 70 yards rushing. I think that's what he had last time, was 72 yards rushing the last time they played. Yep. And no work in the passing game. So I think that aspect of things will be interesting. You talked about the blitz. As far as Philadelphia not blitzing a lot, they don't have to blitz a lot because that front gets a lot of pressure. Exactly. You know what I mean? And Matt Stafford is definitely not a mobile guy. We just mentioned, we just talked about the fact that he had some opportunities in the last snow game that he played back in Green Bay with Megatron. So I think, you compound that along with, obviously this ferocious defense for Philly. I just, again, man, I don't have a lot of ways that it happens. Matt Stafford had 2 touchdowns and 243 yards the last time they played. So maybe that happens. So maybe kind of to your over point, maybe that's happened because if they're able to score two touchdowns, and obviously the Eagles would have to score more than 2 touchdowns, obviously. So I can see how they could get there. I'm just taking the under based off the fact that I think the Eagles will control the game all game long, and they will run the ball. And if they do that, that means obviously it's going to be less opportunities for the Rams. And if so, that means that the Eagles get to tee off on them. But overall, man, you know what I mean? I think a lot of your points are incredibly valid as far as where you're at, with these guys and stuff like that. Prop side of things, like I said, I haven't actually made any, but a couple of guys I would be looking at on the prop side of the world. If when I do play my props, I'm definitely going to be looking at Cooper Kupp, his prop. I'm also going to be looking at AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert as well, because just historically.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, man.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Last week,
too. Dallas Goedert hearing from.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
Yeah, I know. He's playing possum like Travis Kelce.
I will say AJ Brown. I saw AJ Brown at four and a half catches. Like that's too that's like a catch too low. Because normally it's like usually 6 on average for AJ Brown, and that's something I could definitely rock with as well. But I decided to leave it off the card. It was very close to getting on the card for me, and I still might play it, but it's still something I would like. I would still it's Cooper Kupp based on game flow and how the Rams should be throwing the football potentially in a game where they should be coming back from. So but
so I mean,
how's Goddard?
Yeah, I'm just going back to it, man. Just because, like I said, and I mean, my theory is this. My game theory is this, right? If you're loading up to stop Saquon, what you just talked about with the Rams, well, that's the same thing that works for the Eagles, right? Like if you're loading up to stop the run against Saquon, Dallas Goedert is probably going to be the guy that's going to be running free as linebackers are going to be coming up. So, like I said, we'll see, but like he's definitely a player that I'm definitely considering. So,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. So we're in agreement on the Eagles. Makes sense. Yeah. Let's see if we're in agreement on the next game. Ravens, Bills. Basically, I pick them. Ravens been pretty much 1.5 throughout the whole, pretty much the week has been like pretty much that from a betting line trend. Bills are at home. The over is 51.5. It's 6:30 game time start.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a few things to like about both sides, right? Both of these quarterbacks, for legacy purposes, need this game, right? Both of them have to get this win, right? But only one can win. In terms of how I see this game going, like there's a few things that I want to check into the matchup, and that is Buffalo Bills linebackers take on Derrick Henry. Clearly, right? Henry ran over 199 rushing yards, the game that the Ravens blew them out in 35-10. And, again, no Terrell Bernard, and there was no Matt Milano in that game. Like, there was a ton of, I believe they lost. They was losing one of their run-stopping safeties as well in that game as well for injury purposes. So, how do you stop Derrick Henry? I mean, one of those things you can only hope to stop him and only hope to contain him.
Yeah. I mean, that's it.
Type of thing. Like, Derrick Henry's got to maybe, trip over himself, maybe or something like that.
That's literally it, bro. That's literally it. Or
he's got to step on someone's shoelace.
Or he takes himself out of the game, man. Like that's really it, man. There's like, but just like in that same breath, right? Like you're talking about, Derrick Henry and how do you stop him? Like obviously, like what he did to the Steelers last week. Like last week looked like prime Derrick Henry. It looked like Derrick Henry when he was with the Tennessee Titans, shouldering them to the AFC championship game is what it looked like. And obviously now, like you have this lethal element with Lamar Jackson in the backfield, MVP candidate. As you mentioned, only one of these guys can win, and it's a legacy game, right? And all this and all that. Man, Lamar Jackson, I think for me, like when I look at this, and I've said it all year long, and every time I say the Bills defense is soft, they come up and they play out of their mind. But I think again, like this is a narrative for the Bills now that like I feel like if they are able to win this game and slow down Derrick Henry, then I think they do go to the Super Bowl, man. But I also think this could be one of those situations where this could be a really physical game for the Bills. And if they find some way to win, then you got to go play Kansas City, another really physical football team. But I like the Ravens, man, as much as it obviously as it pains me to say this. I just think that like it pains me to say it. Like it pains me to say it. But like, now that my team now that the Steelers are out, I can really look at this through, an objective view, man. And like I just don't think that there is a way to be able to, and if you are able to slow down Derrick Henry, then guess what? Now you got to deal with Lamar Jackson, right? And I just think defensively too, like with what the Ravens have done with Kyle Hamilton, which was a guy I loved coming out of the draft. I don't see a way that the Ravens lose this game, other than obviously the Bills get a few turnovers. It is a very unique situation where the Ravens are the road team and they're favored. But I mean, if we're just going back and looking, you mentioned Derrick Henry. So Justice Hill last game, 6 for 6, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards. And I think he's somebody that's been bringing a different element to this offense. You're probably going to say, oh, well, they don't have Zay Flowers. Well, guess what? Great news. Zay Flowers didn't do shit the last time they played, so it don't even matter. So, so here we are. Again, I know the Bills have made a couple moves, obviously bringing in Amari Cooper. We talked about Mac Hollins last week. I mean, obviously, he made a couple plays. But for me, I think this is going to be one of these situations where ultimately the Buffalo Bills not having a true alpha number one wide receiver, I think is finally going to show up here today against the Baltimore Ravens. So I definitely like the Ravens in this game. The over under, I don't want to be underdog in here all the time. I know you love rooting for unders and all the time, but
I do. I love rooting for unders.
I mean overs. What did I say? Overs. But maybe this is a game where the Ravens, the Bills do come out and at least put up a fight. But I mean, there's not a whole lot to reference, man. I think another stat that I'd say, Buffalo, 8 out of their last 10 games have gave up at least 2 touchdowns in some capacity to quarterbacks. Obviously, Bo Nix last week didn't play bad for a rookie in his first playoff game, by the way.
Good, yeah.
I hear you, George. I know. I hear you. I hear you, George. So yeah, man. Give me the Ravens, man, and give me
I'll sell out my own team to make sure I get money.
Give me a little more. Listen, you've been doing that all your life with the Jets. They ain't been about shit. So
been pretty good. Been pretty good in the bank accounts too, as well.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I think this is the game for Lamar. I think this is finally the one where he gets it right, and they get it right for sure.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I think for making cases for the Bills here, I think having their best players back on defense for this one is going to be interesting to see, because Taron Johnson was the safety I was talking about that missed this game as well. So combined with Milano, Bernard, and also Johnson, those are technically the best run stoppers for this Buffalo Bills defense. And pretty much well for a good majority of the year, they were kind of in and out without him. They've been a bottom 10 defense when it comes to rushing yards allowed. So in terms of this match for the Bills, the only way they're going to make sure they're going to look to win this game is by Josh Allen and him being magnificent with the football. Look, Josh Allen, the last time he played, last time he had a multi-interception game was going back to the Colts game early in November. And he's been remarkable at not turning the football over. This offensive line for the Bills have been bullies as well. And when it comes down to it, this could be where the Ravens could find themselves in a situation where if Bills playing from behind, the matchup we're looking at is, can Keon Coleman take advantage of Brandon Stevens today? Is one of the matchups we're looking at on paper, because the receiver, Amari Cooper is going to probably have his matchup against Marlon Humphrey, unless they're switching off or whatever. They're playing a little bit more zone, whatever it is. Keon Coleman and, Khalil Shakir is going to have, his opportunities as well in the slot. Keon Coleman has to be the guy that wins down deep today. Brandon Stevens is one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. He is pretty much majority of the reason why for most of the earlier parts of the year, the Ravens were definitely struggling through the airs because Stevens was just allowing things to happen constantly on the back end. He's a 99th cornerback out of 117 gradage wise PFF. Good Lord. So I think there's a big matchup in where Keon Coleman, whoever plays against Stevens, has to have a matchup worthwhile against Buffalo. Whether it be Curtis Samuel, whether it be even Mac Hollins, these guys are going to have to chip in in order to have an opportunity for Buffalo to win this game in general. That's something I'm watching out for. Spencer Brown, tackle for the Bills, taking on Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy, obviously one of the better linebacker rusher ends of the league, 12 and a half sacks this year when it comes to the Ravens defense, and him combined with Kyle Hamilton, stuff like that. These guys play really solid defense on the back end as well. So it remains to be seen like how the Bills are gonna, be in this game. But I feel like they are in some way, shape or form. It just has to be on Josh Allen's arm. Like Josh Allen has been pretty magnificent when it comes to playoff games. It's tough to go with whoever it is. I think we're in agreement again. I think I'm taking the Ravens because the Lamar Jackson thing has the last couple of years I've been just like constantly on him for is the way that he performs with his arm. Like, and it's not, last year in the conference championship game against the Chiefs, we were on him because he wasn't doing enough rushing. He was trying to do too much with his arm. Like, this has to be a balanced effort for Lamar. And because of him and Derrick Henry this year, the way that the Ravens win this game is somewhat similar to Detroit. The only difference is that Lamar obviously is going to take better angles, you know what I'm saying, and take more routes to, for the defense to cover, right? Because we're running naked bootlegs, for running, option plays, for running, pistol formation, we're running different things. What this Ravens offense loves to do. There's also ways where, again, we're either going to have Derrick Henry, we're going to run him power play. We're going to run him dive play. We're going to run him stretch out sides. And we're going to have Lamar Jackson, play action, boot off that, or play action and literally just take off when needs to. Like, there's so many angles that you have to cover for just those two guys alone, let alone the other threats in this offense as well. I know Zay Flowers not going to be playing. I believe he's doubtful. Last time I checked, I don't think he's playing. No. But in terms of this game for the Ravens, I wouldn't say that's not a huge loss because it somewhat is for the deep play. But I think in terms of likely coming into the fold, Andrews, Bateman, even Nelson Aguilar to a weird degree, like they'll have to play those guys as well in order to keep this thing afloat. So I think if the Ravens game plan is simple, run the football, control time possession, don't let Josh Allen have too many opportunities on the offense. If the Ravens can find a way to follow this game plan and Lamar Jackson don't turn the football over in unnecessary ways and take the points when they can, I think it's an opportunity where they definitely win on the road today. The over I'm taking because these two teams are going to go mano-a-mano, I believe. There's going to be opportunities where both teams are going to find scores and find ways to get under each other's skin. So I think the Ravens, their pass defense woes earlier on in the year still somewhat concerns me in a way to where I think they could still find themselves in ways in which they'll give up points. I got to look up really quickly where if the Buffalo Bills team total is, because that's something I would probably potentially take as well. Just because if we think this game is going to be back and forth, everything that we saw last night for Detroit and Washington, like this could be something where
I got
25.
I got 25. That's 25. That's what I mean. That's a projected. I don't obviously
25 and a half
sports book. Yeah, I don't have FanDuel
25 and a half on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ravens 26 and a half. So I mean, it's definitely can go either way. But yeah, I'm taking the Ravens in this game. I just think I'm still trying to figure out how this Bills team is going to stop all these angles they have to cover. Because there's a lot for any defense in general. How they're going to do that. And then again, once you try to figure that out, it's all of a sudden a play action pass to Bateman over the middle or down deep, or likely over the middle. So there's a lot to cover for. And the Jets aren't worth anything anyway. Of course they aren't. But it's okay. We have a ton of people sitting on the couch with us. Steelers fans, Dolphins fans.
Oh man,
Texans fans now.
Don't try to play that shit. Don't try to play that sitting on the couch shit. Don't try to play that.
People are gonna be having
to play that shit,
sooner or later.
We sitting on a nice couch. Y'all out there on a cardboard box.
On a nice couch, huh?
Yeah. Y'all out there on a cardboard box. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. Yeah. Listen, Jets are bad. It is what it is.
Yep. Steelers are also too. That's why they're out. But that being said, we got prop plays for the game. So first one I want to go over is this should hit pretty easily. I feel very confident. It's one of my confident plays of the day. And that's Justice Hill. Over 34.5 rushing receiving in a game where we think that this should be a back and forth matchup. And where we see rushing, we see receiving. We know Justice Hill is a receiving back for the Ravens when that happens. The Buffalo Bills have been a running back funnel all season. They've allowed the most in the NFL to opposing running backs when it comes to rushing and receiving yards. They are second. They allow second most receptions to running backs as well. In the game that Justice Hill actually played, he had over 75 receiving yards alone. God. In a 35-10 victory. So this should be something that I feel really confident in terms of this line, because it's way too low, I think. He may get a carry or two as well, but I do think it comes from the receiving game when it comes down to easy check down passes from Lamar, because he's going to be wide open. Josh Allen over 8.5 rush attempts. The only game that he hasn't cleared this in the playoffs, he ran for actually 90 yards. So he's hit this on he's hit this rushing attempt line in every game, in every playoff game. So anytime we get some tempo for Josh Allen, we should see more rushes from him, and that's why I feel confident in this one. Dalton Kincaid over 31.5 receiving yards. Besides Shakir, Colin Kincaid is going to have to find his way in this ball game as well. When even the prior week, last week in Denver, Kincaid was looking like the guy that was getting all the underneath stuff. The guy that we thought we were drafting for most of us in fantasy.
About that.
It's just the guy that we thought we were drafting in fantasy all year. That was that. But in terms of Kincaid in general, he should hit this line pretty much relative with ease. It's gonna be him and Shakir, finding ways in the intermediate slot. So in a game where Buffalo potentially is playing from behind as well, Kincaid should get enough yardage to get there. That's all I got for the prop perspective on the slate of games. Obviously, with 2 games, there's only so many plays you can play. But that being said, Johnny, what else you got for us?
Oh, well, I mean, if you happen to be playing in any DFS, man, I'll just pop a couple of quick ownership plugs. I personally am not playing any DFS today, just because.
Not today.
Nah, these are not my favorite kind of slates, but don't worry, man. If you are, I still got ownership for you. I got some love for you. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, talking DraftKings here today. Highest on player, 56%. So that number will probably be in the 60s would be my guess. 8,200 for him. Derrick Henry, a cool 8K.
Henry? Is he hungry?
Henry. Listen, today I'm telling you, man, I am. Oh my God, I can see it. I can see it all happening right now. Not to go just off on a side note. This is the Ravens. They made moves to win the Super Bowl. That is a Super Bowl winning move to bring that man in. So, I think you are absolutely going to see him get unleashed today, for sure. From the QB perspective, obviously, Josh Allen, 35%. Wide receiver, Puka Nacua, highest owned receiver on the slate at 54%. So those are just a couple of my call outs, just from the DFS side. But outside of that, my final thoughts are, you have one quarterback on this slate, or here playing today, who has won a Super Bowl. That's Matt Stafford. You have 2 potential MVP candidates this year, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You have 2 of the best running backs in the NFL, right? And then you have obviously 2 coaches who have won Super Bowls in Harbaugh and McVay. So even though last night's individual game was a really good game, I think this is definitely the best set of games that we have today, just based off of everything that I just mentioned in terms of the Super Bowl quarterback, the MVP, the coaches, the storylines, right? I'm super excited today. And like I said, man, I think it's going to be awesome. It's just going to be painful to see the Ravens probably pull out a win today. So fly, Eagles, fly is what I got to say. I get out there and do my ghillie dance out there for the Eagles today, man.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, final thoughts. I mean, I'm looking forward to both of these games, honestly, because both of these games have more of a richness to them in terms of backstory, background, and what we potentially could see. But I mean, yeah, look, I'm sure it's going to pain you to see the Ravens absolutely potentially win this game against the Bills. And I'm rooting for them because I can't stand the Bills. So I hope they, choke today. But it's a fun fact. It's about the air animals today, not the land ones.
Bills. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Nickelodeon in the building, baby. Nickelodeon.
Hey, man. Hey, it's about the air animals today. It's about the Eagles, about the Ravens. It's not about the Bills and the Rams today.
Fair enough. Nickelodeon. That's a Nickelodeon moment right there.
That's just a funny thing. I just came in my head and figured I'd test it out.
Well, but, like I said, it's a Nickelodeon moment, man. Some shit you'd see on Nickelodeon right there.
Thanks. Your Steelers suck. Anyway, that's my final thought for today as Steelers. With that being said, with me and Johnny, next show we got is the fantasy football season recap. So we're gonna be looking to do that Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Will be the time that we get on and go over all things for the season wrap up of fantasy football, maybe some spicy takes for next season potentially in there. But also all things considered, plays that we were on in terms of what we could have improved on for process and what we totally missed on when it comes to fantasy football season. Don't miss next show. If you haven't followed us already, please do so on the X/the Twitter. These are our tags below. If you aren't liking, subscribing to the channel, what are you doing? Please support. We look forward to coming to you guys in the next show. So with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next show. Peace.